Hello and welcome back to Vinyl Friday, where I go through my records in alphabetical order like a big nerd and talk about why I love them. This week is a Rubber Soul week, and it's our 4th Rubber Soul week, which means that we're listening to this song. He's a real man. Iconic. What a beautiful start to a song. I'm not sure that this is going to be as long an episode as usual because that right there basically sums up the bulk of what I want to talk about with respect to this song. That is, of course, the vocals. The vocals of this song are the centerpiece. They are everything that the song revolves around, and they are stunning. When I was in my Beatles cover band, the Elementary Penguins, I don't know if I've mentioned, but we weren't just a general Beatles cover band. We covered Rubber Soul start to finish. That was as far as we got. We were going to do Revolver as well, but the pandemic happened. So we're in the Elementary Penguins, we're trying to learn these songs, we come to this one, and we could not separate out the vocals. And I'd like to think that I have a pretty good ear, but their voices are so beautifully blended on this track that it's very difficult to hear what George is doing and what Paul's doing. John is a little bit easier to hear because he's singing the lead, so he's maybe bumped slightly in the mix. I think it's just a testament to how great they were as a group. I've mentioned in earlier episodes how fortunate it is that their 3 voices work so well together, and this is a perfect example of that. Let's have a listen to some of these vocals. This whole video is just going to be me grooving to this song, enjoying the hell out of the Beatles. To be fair, I think that's what all of the Beatles Vinyl Fridays are, just me really grooving to the Beatles. One thing that I think a lot of people discount or may not realize in what makes a backing vocal good or a harmony really solid is phrasing and diction. That is a huge part of what makes their vocals blend so well. They're ending all of their phrases at the same time. They're all hitting their consonants at the same time, and they're singing with the same accent. All of those things are just little factors that make a huge difference in cleaning up a backing vocal. And that's what makes it sound so good. That, and obviously the melody is really nice. And they're good singers, so the actual tone of their vocals is really good as well. The individual vocal is that it doesn't sound like 3 people singing together. It sounds like a unit of sound. I don't know how many other ways to say this is brilliant. Anyway, enough talking, let's listen. Listen to the ends of the phrases, especially on sitting. You're not hearing 3 people sing S's at different times. You're hearing one S sound, sitting. He's a real nowhere man, sitting in his nowhere land. Again, it doesn't sound like much, but it's really important. It makes a big difference. One of the bands I'm in, my band, is called Tweed. We're a trio, and the 3 of us sing together. And sometimes after we perform, people come over and they tell us that our vocals sound like we're more than 3 people. And that never really made any sense to me because obviously I can't hear it when the 3 of us are performing. It just sounds like us. But listening to this, it makes a lot more sense. It's not clear how many people are singing here. It's just, yeah, a unit of beautiful sound. I think it's also worth mentioning that their pitching is perfect. John Lennon has a slightly unruly voice, but for the most part, they always stay in tune. It's another element of harmony that's very, very important. If there are 3 of you singing together and one of you is out, it's really obvious. Another reason that these harmonies sound so good is that all 3 of them are singing perfectly in tune the whole time. And George Martin made the point, I believe, in an interview, and Jeff Emmerich, that the Beatles' pitching was always spot on. Not to sound too much like Rick Beato, but it's one of the things that I really enjoy about music before the turn of this century, and that is that autotune didn't exist, so you know by default that none of the vocals are tuned. What you hear is what you get. If it's in tune, it's because the singer could sing in tune. Whereas now, it always feels like there's the possibility that you're being deceived when you're listening to music. You never really know if somebody is actually that good a singer or if the studio is making them sound like a good singer. And while I can appreciate wanting to create a piece of music that sounds as perfect as possible, if you're tuning the vocals, like sometimes you listen to modern pop music, radio-friendly, mainstream pop music, the vocals almost sound digital. There are no imperfections, and that sounds a bit uncanny valley, I think, to our ears. To be honest, while I'm not a huge fan of someone singing wildly out of tune, Bob Dylan, I think that what can give music and give a vocal character is those little imperfections, is sliding between notes and not landing immediately on a note. Like, that's somebody else. He glides up to it. Somebody else. It's really good, but it's slightly imperfect in a way that I feel is really pleasing to the ear. We can never go back to that because autotune exists now. So when you're listening to music, you never fully know. Maybe that's part of the reason people still love live music so much, that it's real. When AI music is in its infancy, and I assume it is, I don't think it's just going to go away, this idea that you don't know whether or not what you're listening to is real, there's something kind of reassuring about listening to something like this and knowing that this is what it is. They couldn't make it any more precise than what they could capture, because that's what the technology allowed for. I really love that. That feels very novel and special in today's musical landscape. Last note about the vocals. After all that I said about not being able to separate out the vocals, this last note that Paul sings, it's amazing. Like, it's hard for me to sing a note this high and this forcefully. And I'm assuming it's Paul because he has the highest range of any of them. Making all his nowhere plans for nobody. Again, but without me. Beautiful. Well done, Paul. A few more things. This album is really the album of their backing vocals, where they're really doing things that draw attention to their backing vocals. In the last song, You Won't See Me, where they sing, ooh, la, 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 they do the same thing here. Ah, la, la, la. I'm not sure why it was that they decided on this album, like, yeah, we really want people to notice what we're doing with the backing vocals, but that's what they did. That's part of the reason that the album has this sound that it has. A few people mentioned in the comments last time that this album has the most discreet vibe, I guess, than any other album. I guess they mean that it's a cohesive sounding album. You can easily identify any song from the album. If you picked it in isolation, then it fits on this album. Whereas if you've got an album like Revolver, you've got to Get You Into My Life next to For No One, next to Love You Too. So in a sense, maybe this is the last album that isn't a strict rock and roll album, but also all of the songs sound like they belong to the same family. Maybe those backing vocals are part of the reason why it sounds that way. Second to last thing that I want to draw your attention to is the sort of singing nature of Paul's bass line. I would get Carlos out for this, but what I want to demonstrate is how melodic the bass line is and how it functions almost as a counter melody to the harmonies. So I'm going to do my best to sing it. Wish me luck. Here we go. I hope that wasn't too grating. It's really hard because I can't sing it in the octave where it is. Bum, 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 bum. I'll try. It's out of my range, so bear with. Bum, 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 bum. That was only marginally better. I hope it gave you enough of an idea of what it sounds like. In any case, it sounds like a song. The bass is singing. This was one that I really enjoyed playing as Paul in the illustrious Elementary Penguins, who played one gig right before the pandemic hit. Yeah, I think that's a lovely bass line. The very last thing that I want to mention is the solo. This solo, I believe, birthed a whole lot of subgenres. And I know that you can make the argument that, like, A Hard Day's Night also has his Rickenbacker 12-string guitar, which looks like this. However, I think that this is the first time that he's played his 12-string Rickenbacker and really let those chords ring. And I believe that that is what birthed these genres. Let's have a quick listen to the solo. It's very simple. It just follows the melody, but it lends an awful lot to the song. It's very pretty. He's just luxuriating in the tone of it. He's doing like a slow, rake, I guess it's called, a slow rake of the strings at the beginning of each phrase in the solo. And when I say it birthed a bunch of subgenres, there was this boom of like power pop, jangle pop that proliferated, I would argue, from the 70s through till the late 90s. Here's just like a little montage, I guess, of George Harrison, Nowhere Man solo emulators through the decades. Here we go. Hit it!
Put us back on the train.
And if you think the age of jangle pop is over, you would be wrong. Here are a handful of modern examples. See all the Rickenbackers? Great! That's everything from me today. Nice simple one. Yeah, I mean, it worked out being almost exactly as long as all of the other ones. It's not a very long song, but those vocals are everything. Obviously they're not, because I also pointed out how important the guitar solo and the bass line are, but those vocals are just incredible. So I hope you had a good time. I had a good time. Thanks for hanging out with me. I'll see you here next week. Have a great weekend!